Alright, well that sucked. I just recorded about 10 minutes worth of stuff only to find out that I didn't have sound the entire time. Alright, well I'll go back and read the two stories that I just told. One was, what was it? It's on the same page, I know it is. Oh, 102, the, rabbit paw. So I had this, or the unlucky rabbit paw, rather. It was, this it was a pointer for a computer program that I had from when I was a kid, and it was just this hard plastic rabbit paw. That's all that it was. And you know, it's made for a little pointer so you can point to little math problems and stuff on the computer screen. But I didn't use it for that. You know, I had it for, God, well over a decade, probably about 14 or 15 years. But I noticed that it was like really good for smacking people with, like smack them in the arm and like leave that stinging sensation. Of course, we got a truck rolling up now that I'm sure you'll be able to hear. Hold on. Can you hear that? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But oh, that's the other thing is I'm shooting this up in Minneapolis. I had a 16-hour layover, so figure get something done. So forgive quality, but I'm shooting this in the semi, so got limited space, limited space, limited battery life. But anyways, back to the story. So I had this rabbit paw, and I'd slap people with it, just kind of like on their arm or their leg or something like that. And it got bad enough to the point where a couple of my old roommates hid it from me. And I didn't know that they hid it from me. I just assumed I misplaced it because I did that often. But I happened to come across it one day, and I'm like, no, this wasn't misplaced. This was hidden. Somebody hid this. And whenever I found it, they're like, both my roommates at the time, they're like, oh shit. And I'm like, oh, so this was like a mutual effort to fucking, take this away from me. It's like, okay, I got it, shit. And so I went on like a rampage and just slapped the shit out of everybody with this thing. And probably hard enough to like leave little welts on their arms and shit. But fucking like 2 weeks later, if that, I fucking find it, and somebody broke the damn thing, which like it was actually made like, I don't know if it was fiberglass or just really insanely hard plastic, but they couldn't actually break it. They could just like splinter the shit out of it. But I found it, and the handle was completely splintered, just mangled, and fucking just a disaster looking type of thing. And so I went online and bought like a replacement one, but the replacement one like just kind of broke on its own. Like I didn't even have to do anything to it; it just broke. And so like, they were both cheap, cheap, but one was a much better quality cheap. And so yeah, I used to have that, but apparently it didn't make people feel comfortable, so they decided to take it away from me, which is not okay to do. I can piss you off all I want with it, but that doesn't mean it's okay to go and break my shit. Like that just makes you an awful human being to think that because you don't like something you're allowed to go break it. Granted, you could easily argue it's not okay to run around and hit people either, but mine made me laugh. Theirs was done in anger. So, meh. Alright, what was the other story I told? 88. Oh yeah, that was the one I was like, oh yeah, that's my the year I was born. Don't be me, FedEx. So I was training a guy when I worked at FedEx on the dock. and I had to train him to be my replacement for 2 weeks while I went on a trip to Miami, because basically, like, no, they wouldn't let me take a day off because they kind of needed me there. And so I never got to use up any of my vacation, to the point where, like, you're only supposed to take like a week off at a time, but it was like a use it or lose it scenario, and I had 2 weeks built up, and so I took 2 weeks off. But because I was going to be gone for so long, they made me train a guy to do part of my job while I was gone. And the entire time I'm training this dude, it's just, hey, don't be me. Don't do what I do. Do what I tell you to do. I've done this for a decade, or not a decade, a little under a decade, but close enough. Just do what I tell you to do, and everything will be fine. And one of the things I could do is I could throw 150 pounds into a chute that was 10 feet in the air. I get underneath it and just launch it and have it land in this metal chute. But he knew that, but I constantly told him, I said, hey, don't do that. Like, do not do that. Do what I tell you to do. I'm going to train you how to do it the proper way, not how I do it. And he's like, yep. And, the entire time, everything was going smooth, good. No issues whatsoever. And so I go on my vacation. I come back, which I wasn't even sure if I was going to come back from this vacation, but my mom decided she was going to tag along to make sure that I came back home. Because I was kind of like, just go, disappear into Florida. That sounds awesome. But, so when I come back, this dude's missing. Like, he's not in the area. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? So I go to one of the managers. I'm like, hey, where's the dude that I trained? And they're like, oh, he's over in Smalls. And I just immediately went, that son of a bitch. Because I knew exactly what had happened. He tried to launch a package, and he threw out his shoulder. And I knew he was going to do it, which is why I told him not to do it. And so I found him after work, and like, as soon as he saw me, he just kind of like dropped his head a little bit. And I was like, so what'd you do? And he's like, I tried to be you. I said, and what did I tell you not to do? Try to be you. I said, yeah, that's why. I spent, 8-9 years building up my shoulders and stuff to be able to do that. And, learn that in a week. So, yeah, he ended up messing up his shoulder. Just, he threw it out. He didn't like tear anything or anything, but he couldn't use his shoulder for like a week or so, something like that. But yeah, that was when somebody says, hey, I've been doing this for a while, don't do it necessarily how I do it how I tell you to do it. There's a fucking reason for that. Alright, well, that's the don't be me. Also, don't be me. Don't swear as much as I do. It's horrible. People don't like it. 44. What do we got for 44? Oh. Jeffy, have you fixed your tie rod? Which this is actually, if Jeffrey happens to see this, I still want to know. Because Jeffrey was just a guy in a warehouse that I delivered to, and he came in one day talking about how his tie rods were bad. And I told him how, and I was like, this is how you fix it. It's really easy to do. It's something that like anybody can do as long as you take, just go watch a YouTube video on it. They tell you what precautions to take. And you do that, you can change it out yourself, and then, go spend $100 or whatever on an alignment just to double check. But like, because they were trying to charge him like $500 or $600 at the shop he went to. I'm like, dude, it's parts. Like, it literally takes you 5 minutes ish to change it. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? Fucking $500 for 5 minutes a time? No, just no. And so yeah, that was actually a bullshit story that I just kind of wrote through in there. But Jeffrey, if you see this, I want to know. Did you ever get your fucking tie rods fixed? Oh wait, no. I think he actually got rid of that car. I think he got into an accident. Still, fix your fucking tie rods. Everyone. 78. Oh yeah. Oompa Loompa. So, working all these warehouse jobs, I I had a habit of I just pick up the heavy shit by myself and move it around. I wouldn't ask for help. Um, and it wasn't because I'm like, oh, look at me, Mr. Macho Man, I can do it myself. It was just literally because every time I asked for help on something, I'd end up hurting somebody. Like I'd run them into a wall or something because I would be moving at a lot faster of a pace than they were. You know, whether they're, I'd either end up pulling them forward or backing them into something. Like they never moved as fast as I did when I was carrying the shit. And so I started, I'd sing the Oompa Loompa Doopity Doo. And I just sing that while we were carrying something to give a beat to, walking. Oompa Loompa Doopity Doo. And I noticed that kind of cut down majorly on me injuring other people. So, yeah, that was really short story, but if you have to carry something with somebody, just sing a stupid little song while you're doing it. It gives you something to laugh about, and it kind of it gives a beat to walk to. So you can stay in sync with the other person a lot easier and avoid some injury. All right, looks like maybe one more because I had a couple short ones in there. Fix your tie rods, Jeff. $85. Oh shit, that's on a different page. I was like, most of these are on the same page. This page ends at 84. I saw that. Oh. This was about me. One of the jobs that I worked at, not only did I work in the warehouse, I also worked for the security, somewhat, small part. Couple days a week I go up and do the security stuff, but I remember catching somebody stealing what ended up being an iPad. I thought it was we had a pair of limited edition headphones that were white, and from where I saw him steal it from, that it was like in the same area, so I thought it was the limited edition headphones. It turned out to be an iPad. But that was like one of the few times that it wasn't just like investigative, oh, okay, this is where this got taken. Okay, we need to keep an eye on this area, just cleaning it up after the fact. This was me literally watching this dude do this. I, had the camera zoomed in on him because he was walking around with a lockbox or one of those little plastic lock boxes that needs a key to be opened. And I'm like, that's kind of strange. Like, people don't usually walk around the store with those. And there weren't many people in the store, so I was like, fuck it, I'll just follow this guy. And I did, and I just watched him, like, all of a sudden this lockbox open. I'm like, no? And watched him slide out the white box that, again, was an iPad. And it's still, again, I thought it was a fucking pair of limited edition headphones. But fucking yeah, that was kind of an interesting moment. And then of course things had to be handled, and so like I got my boss involved, who, well, not my direct boss, but my boss's boss, and apparently he handled everything wrong. And so when I came to work the next day, my boss kind of asked me about the situation. I told him, I showed him the tapes. Or no, I didn't show him the tapes, but I told him it's on tape, and he went and got the tapes. I didn't have access to the tapes. Um, but I did tell him. I said, yeah, I got it on camera. The dude's face is on camera, but so my boss was like furious, not because of what I did, but because of what his boss did. Like, didn't even call the cops. Just fucking like was like, well, we'll deal with it tomorrow. And it's like, but I caught the guy. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Deal with it tomorrow. And but fucking yeah, just fucking bullshit. And my boss was furious. And yeah, that was I was gonna say there was other times I caught people doing suspicious things, and there was other times that we actually like shut down a group of people who were going around and hitting a bunch of stores. Like, we it was actually one of my coworkers who ended up writing up the report, but like we all had to give statements and shit on this group of people that was just going around and stealing shit. And they like it was a 3-person team, and one would go distract, one would keep an eye out, and the other one would slip the product. And I remember the group hated me because while I was doing my job, I would talk to people without looking at them. Like, okay, my laptop's down here. I'm sitting here staring at my laptop, and like, you guys could be talking to me, and I'll talk to you, but I'm not taking my eyes off the laptop. So they didn't like whenever I was at the desk because I wasn't easy to distract, because I would talk to them while still doing my job. But we ended up giving description. Like, they had a couple unique characteristics. Like, one of them had a scar on their face that was pretty identifiable. And we ended up not only posting things to all the local stores, all of our stores that were within, I think, a 3-hour radius of us, but we also got the information to the cops, and I think they actually ended up arresting them, like catching them. And it was because the report that went out, if I remember right, the report went out at a different store that was actually like in the neighborhood. And when they came in, because we had them on camera too, so we had pictures of them. And so when they came in, the security of that store, as soon as they came in, notified the police. And before they even got out of the store, the police were there and arrested them. All right, well, we're at 18 minutes now. I didn't expect that. I had some issues with the sound. Did not want to record anything. Like, it didn't want to go through my mixer at all. But I ended up just direct connecting the sound to the mic to the recording program instead of running it through my mixer. So sucks, but gotta do what you gotta do, right? And now I'll probably spend another 2-3 hours figuring out why it won't go through my mixer. But alright, well, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Probably spending a couple hours editing this, but yeah, like I said, I had a long layover up here in Minneapolis, so might as well, right? Knock another one out. Which I imagine a lot of these story times I'm going to go through are probably going to be in the semi when I have downtime. And I'm sure nobody cares about them, but at the same time, I kind of like telling them. So, meh. Alright, that's it. Go ahead and stop this.